All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending the Akron Software Craftsmanship Meetup tonight. My name is Mark Harwood. I'm the main organizer of this group. We typically meet on the third Thursday of each month to talk about all things pertaining to software development. We're an agnostic group, so topics are pretty diverse across tech stacks or layers of the stacks or roles within the SDLC. I do need to shout out my employer because they sponsor this group for me. I work at Robert Half Technology. We're a global staffing and consulting firm. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and I operate in Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Toledo, Youngstown, and Pittsburgh. I co-manage a group of lone staff developers who are focused in software engineering and data warehousing. So if anyone on the call could use an extra set of hands or a small group to come in and help out with some sort of software development project or data warehousing project, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk about it. Also, Robert Half is a massive staffing firm. So if anyone on the call is looking for new scenery or they're looking to hire someone and they're having a hard time with it, please find me on LinkedIn, message me. If I don't help directly, I can definitely get you into communication with someone who can help more directly. So that's the corporate plug. And then before we do start, I wanted to give a couple shout outs. Firstly, to the Akron Bounce Innovation Hub. It's where I normally hold this meetup, and I do plan on returning there before the end of this year. They're an awesome co-working space in downtown Akron. So check them out if you're a remote worker who's looking for shared office space, or you just want to change up your daily surroundings every once in a while. Akron Bounce Innovation Hub is the bomb. I'm also a massive fan of collaboration in general, and Northeast Ohio has 2 different public tech Slacks that I'll be dropping invite links to in the meeting chat. One is the Cleveland Tech Slack, the other is the Canton Tech Slack. It's full of great people. And yeah, you can talk tech and collaborate with people or talk music and argue with people. It's a great community that we have here. So yeah. Finally, I'd like to introduce our talk leader presenter person tonight, Carrie Ryan. Carrie and I met in a Scrum Master certification class, or maybe we had met previous to that at a hackathon. I can't quite remember the original meeting, but we've somewhat known each other for a couple of years now, and she was kind enough to accept my invitation to present on something. Carrie's a web developer at Embrace Pet Insurance. She's here to tell us about a project that she's done where she used Beautiful Soup to migrate a ton of website content from website A to website B, saved a bunch of people time in the content migration and whatnot. So yeah, Carrie, I will hand it off to you.
Cool. Hi, hello, welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna share my screen. So yeah, like Mark said, I've been a developer since 2017. Started out with being a full stack developer, I guess you could say. And then from there, worked a little bit as like a project manager, Scrum Master, and then swapped over to the front end. And that's where I've been happiest so far. Really enjoy my job, what I've been working with. So one of the recent projects we did was for our website. So I will go ahead and I will share my screen. Cool. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right, cool, great. Let me go ahead and I'm going to start my presentation. Okay. Okay, so the issue that we were trying to solve here. So at our job, we were trying to migrate from one website to the next. We had a pretty strict deadline of when we wanted to get it done. One of the big driving factors was our Google search ranking. We knew that Google was going to be changing their algorithm, and it was going to be focused a lot more on the way that like performance, accessibility, like all the good stuff. And if I'm being honest, our old website was ranked, I believe, at an F. It was very bad. We were, I think, maybe in the teens for speed and performance. I know accessibility was bad. All around, just we like to call them opportunities, an opportunity to really clean things up and get better. So with all of that in mind, we were trying to make the big change before Google, put their updates in place. So our biggest concern was to stay on the first page of Google and not move to the second page, because nobody goes to the second page. So as we were going through, we decided on what content management system we wanted to use, what we wanted to swap to, and we felt pretty good about that. We actually worked with an outside party for that. So our biggest concern as a team at Embrace was migrating the actual data. So the actual web pages, things like that. And what was most important was these 1,300 pages. So marketing originally was like, well, we can just get a few people together and we can just have I don't know, weekend party entering data. I mean, obviously that's not great, not ideal. So we wanted to be able to automate that for them and make it a little bit easier. So essentially, we were migrating the entire website over to our new content system. So I've actually done this in the past. So at my previous employer, I did it, I think it was either 2 or 3 times, definitely at least 2, where we were moving product data from one website to the other. And luckily it was the same situation of, it was a centralized database where everything was being stored. It was a SQL database, and we wanted to move it to another, I think it was a SQL database in that situation. So we were hoping that what we could do this time around was, so our old CMS utilized a SQL database, and we were hoping that we could transition that and turn it into, honestly, JSON. So we were using Contentful, that's what we're using now. And we were hoping to be able to take that information and move over to Contentful. So the way we've done it in the past was through a bunch of, SQL scripts. Not gonna lie, not my forte, especially now that I'm doing mostly front end stuff. My SQL skills have pretty much gone down the drain. There is a lot of Googling in my area that I need to do in order to do an inner join and things like that. So that was one of the reasons why I was like, oh, I'm not feeling so great about this. As we dug into the actual data, we realized, okay, this is probably not the ideal situation to go from, is to move, try to use SQL scripts to move the database from one place to another. Some of the other issues that we were running into was the database, or the tables within the database were poorly named. If you go in and you take a look at it, there was something I was looking at yesterday where it was just a few letters, and then there was an underscore, and then there were another few letters and another underscore. Just really hard to decipher and try to figure out what that table was even storing. It was a lot of trying to connect the dots to get to the data that you wanted to. So say it was a blog post, and then within the blog post, you had to get to the content, and then within the content, you had to figure out how to get to the author, and then the author had a bio. It was just nuts. It was this, a nightmare, crazy. Another thing that I noticed while I was going through the data, and I was still thinking well, maybe there's a hope, was that there were multiple entries for the exact same data. So I would go into the blog post and I was like, all right, I got the content, I know where I'm going. I noticed that there would sometimes be multiple entries, so three or more of the exact same blog post. The only difference was that it had a different ID, and that was the only difference that I could find. But I wasn't sure, because it was just a long string of basically HTML. And then from there, another issue we were running into was that the data that was being stored within the database was a mess. So there would be these HTML classes. People were going in there and adding inline styling. It's like CSS styling. It was messy. It was not great. We knew that if we would do from SQL situation to another SQL situation, or another database to another database, it was just going to be painful and just so much data cleanup and trying to figure out multiple iterations of, did we do it right? Did we connect things correctly? So what we ended up doing was I will give Ryan a shout out. He's on the call here. Ryan made a good point. He was like, well, okay, so we're just trying to grab data that is visible on a web page and move it over to another place that will be a web page and will also display the same information. So what if we used web scraping to do that? And that sounded pretty cool. And I wanted to give it a shot. So what we ended up doing was we ended up using Beautiful Soup. It's a Python library that you use for web scraping. From there, I built out my Python script through Google Colab. If you're not familiar with it, it's pretty similar to Jupyter Notebook. And then I was just using a bunch of JavaScript scripts to upload to Contentful. So again, this was the plan, was I was going to get the web page URLs from marketing team, use Beautiful Soup to scrape the web page data, and then within Google Colab, I would try to manipulate the data to transition into JSON, clean up any of the mess. So if there was anything, I don't know, like Markdown or anything that was not great, and clean that up, and then importing that into Contentful. So that was my game plan. So approaching it from that way instead of a database to a database, it was amazing how quickly we were able to get things going. So so this was my first time ever doing anything with Beautiful Soup or web scraping at all. So there was a little bit of a learning curve, I got to figure things out. But overall, once I got my feet wet and I felt good and I was ready to take on the actual challenge, it only took me 60 hours to develop and then migrate over all of those web pages to the new site, which I thought was pretty incredible. When we originally estimated this, I think we were thinking multiple months. We met our website data migrations deadline earlier than we anticipated. And then there was no messy data to transfer to the new site. So our real concern was that we didn't want these ugly HTML classes and styling to come over. We didn't need that. And we were afraid that it would affect our new site. So it was nice to be able to start clean, start fresh, and get it going. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start a demonstration of what I did. So reminder that we're already swapped over to the new website, but essentially we can pretend like this is the old website. And I want to be able to grab all of this information here. So the title, the image, the content here, the actual article, and move that over from here to my new website. So let me go ahead. I'm going to actually, I can close out this presentation now. Okay, so a couple things going on here. Let me see. No, I can't. Can I pin it and hide this?
Pin what? Sorry.
Can you see? There's a little bar up here. I don't think you can probably see it.
I don't think so. All we can see is your web browser.
All right, sweet. All right, so ignore me while I'm trying to move around here. I have this giant bar that I can't seem to get rid of. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap. Okay. All right, so not the best. So step one was getting the URLs from our marketing team. So this didn't really necessarily need any of my help. The only thing that I ended up doing was I just removed the actual URL and just kept the URL slug. But this was the data that I got from their team to say, hey, this is what we need from you. So these are the three URLs we're going to be working with here. Pointing that out because this is the script that I would use to go ahead and start scraping. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to connect to Google Drive to get to that file that I just showed. From there, we're going to build out the actual web scraping method. We're going to run it. And let me clear this up real quick. And then we're going to convert it to a JSON file. All right, cool. So I ended up doing this in Google Colab instead of Jupyter Notebook because, I mean, this is silly. So like I said, this is my first time doing this. And honestly, working with Python for, God, a bunch of years. It's been a long time. So getting Jupyter notebooks to work on my computer was a total pain. And I was just looking for something easy and quick. And that's how I found this Google Colab. And it's great. It's just like a online version of Jupyter Notebooks. So we'll go ahead and we'll connect to my drive. And then you get a key that you got to work with. Sorry, guys. That's just my authorization code to say it's okay to connect with my Google Drive. Take this time. All right, cool. And then there were a couple different libraries that I used. So requests, meaning like, requesting get data, things like that. Regular expressions to, I think it was to clean up some data that we're going to get into here, and be able to call things. Beautiful soup, and then being able to convert from the HTML to a JSON. Cool. So this is the actual method that I did. So I go in and I get the URL. So the URL is going to be whatever was in that file that I originally showed. From there, I use a beautiful soup. It's converting it into a beautiful soup object here. So from there, I'm able to build out what I need in order to be able to pull things from the HTML. So let me go ahead, and I should not have closed. Grab that URL one more time. Cool. So I want to be able to show you guys what I'm looking at as I'm going through this. Sorry, my laptop is being very loud.
I can barely hear it.
Okay, great. Okay, so as I'm going through this, I want to be able to locate different areas of the HTML. So what I first want to be able to do is grab all of this, because I know that this is what I want. So as I'm going through and I'm looking for like the div or the container or whatever we're trying to, like the overall arching thing here in order to be able to target the content we want. So as I was going through, it looked like what we wanted here was the article. So the article HTML tag. And that's what we're doing here. And the find here grabs, it's the method that's within Beautiful Soup that it grabs the first instance of that tag on the page. Because there's only one, I was like, okay, well, this is great. There's also another method called find all. So if I wanted to find all the paragraph tags, that's possible. And I think it was like maybe an array. But yeah, so that's possible. But typically, because I was going through this and all I needed really was one thing off the page, like I was always just using the find methods that I looked out in that sort of arena. So yeah, so from here, I can also specify the class. So this, again, allow me to really specify what I want from the page. So because as I'm looking at this, I don't necessarily need to add a class here because there's only one article, hopefully, on the page, and I'm pretty sure there is because we're boss front-end developers on our team. So I don't necessarily need this page, but that was just something to make me feel a little bit better. And honestly, I'm building this out from my old the old website. Kind of took this as an example and repurposed it. So that's another reason why I kept it. So yeah, cool. So we have the content that we can work with. We have everything here on the page. And now from here, we can just kind of pull things from it. So I instantiated a new space in order for me to be able to pull in data. And you can see here, we just start pulling what we need. So as I was going through, this was based off of our what we knew we needed from the for the migration. So we knew we needed the URL, we knew we needed the title, we needed the metadata, we needed the image, we needed the content. So that's really what's going on here. I'm just grabbing the information that I need, and you can see I don't necessarily need this. I could probably delete that if I wanted to. So yeah, so I was going through and I was just finding what I needed and then put it in to the press releases as I go through. So again, same thing as before, where I'm looking to find the first H1 tag on the page that also has the class of header __ title. And we have it right here. So it'll grab this information for us here. And then as I go through, it does get a little bit more tricky with the meta description, just because there's multiple types of metadata on here. And I only want to target the description. And then same sort of stuff going on here. So yeah, it's pretty similar. I'm always checking, doing a try. There's like a try catch going on here. There's an if else situation. Just to be able to, sometimes we would go in and there wouldn't be just like random stuff. So like there wouldn't be an image sometimes the text wasn't coming back. So this was sort of like an error, like a way for me to debug and take a look at things. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna run this. And we have our method and it's like in the system and all good to go. So from there, I'm gonna go and we're going to go through the CSV file that has all of the URL slugs that we want to work with. And we want to go through, map through those and grab our information. So that's going on here. Oh, fun. Why are you giving me a hard time? Oh, fun. Oh, because I had it. Sorry, I had something highlighted. I think that might be the issue. I swear it worked yesterday. No. Why is it giving me a hard time?
This happens every single meetup. So this is the part where you live
debug. Because I didn't run the libraries. There we go. See. Oh my God, I hope that's it. So I casually pretend like my internet went out. Just kidding. I'm staying. Okay. Yeah, cool. So it did run. So you can see how fast it was. It took 3 seconds. It says over here. I think it took less time than that, if I'm being honest. So we can go ahead and we can see what we grabbed from that method. And we got all the data we want. Sorry. This probably looks so silly on your side. Like, why are you doing it like this? Okay. Yeah, so we can see that the information that we want is coming over. It looks like this time around there wasn't anything that Like it didn't bomb out, so that was good. Sometimes because of the try catch situation, we would actually see an error message and it would give me enough information to be able to clean up my script. But we can see everything came through and it looks like it didn't even give any empty strings. So that's good. So what's really important to look at here and to remember is that we're getting, we're not getting JSON. We're not getting anything that we could really consume, or yeah, it's not yet converted into a JSON file. So what I can do is take this information that is still in the beautiful soup object and convert that into a JSON file. Again, super fast. And we can see it right here. So let me see. Cool. So we can see, looks like everything's good. So what I would do from here is I would go and I would download it. From here, we did all the web scraping, we got all the data, good to go. What we want to do now would be the data cleanup. So right now I'm going to go into the project that I built out for this demonstration. And you can see it's the same JSON file. The only thing that I did was I cleaned up the data before this meetup because I didn't want to go through that and put you guys through that. So this is like the cleaned up version. So basically what I was going through when I was doing this was checking to make sure. So like one of the things that I ran into was the date was wrong. So it was in the wrong format for Contentful. They wanted the year, month, day when it was coming back as I think month, day, years. So that was one of the things that I had to clean up. Double checking to make sure that there wasn't anything weird as far as HTML classes, styling. I would go in and just kind of clean things up from there. But yeah, it was pretty chill and just kind of making sure that things were coming over as expected. So like the alt text was actually the alt text and not, I don't know, the meta description, things like that. So everything was good. And then from that point, step 3 was going in and actually converting, pushing up the data to Contentful. So again, I have a demo site going on here. So Contentful, you can think of it as a very, very much a content management system and heavy emphasis content management. So I like to think about WordPress. I feel like with WordPress, there's so many things that you can do as a content person. You can add plugins. There are options for you to like add styling and things like that. But we saw that from our old site, which was kind of like a WordPress situation where content people could go in and they could add their own styling. They could add just stuff that, I mean, no offense, but like, you know, that's you don't want to be able to mess with data and make it ugly, basically. So what we were trying to do is just keep things as clean as possible. And that's what was really cool about Contentful is you go in and all the content manager can do is add content. So as I'm going through here, this is where a content manager would be able to add their information. Like, you know, if they're adding a piece of like a blog post or an image, it would all show up in these two. So images would show up in media, but this is where they upload their information. This is from the developer side, is the content model, and we can see we already built out 2 of these. So the content model, you can think of it as like little building blocks for a page. So this one's really easy because it's just one page and like that's all I'm building really here. But if we have like a press release and I don't know, like a blog post, they might be able to share different content models. So maybe there's a card that's on the page, or there's a call to action that can be shared between the 2 of them. And instead of you know, building out like a single static web page where every single time you need to add it to the page, you have to code it and use it, do it multiple times. You can just build out one, and from there, be able to reuse it in other places. So yeah, it's pretty cool in that sort of way. So the content model, you can almost think of as like a class. So if we go in here, it tells you like the pieces that need to go into the content when you build it out. So again, this was just going off of what I knew from the marketing team, what they needed from me. So we have the title of the press release, we have the slug, we have the date that the press release was published, the image that's supposed to go on there, the body, and the metadata. So these three are pretty straightforward: strings, date, time. This one would be an image, so also not too terrible, at least right here. Once we get into these two, so rich text is pretty cool. It gives you the ability as a content manager to be able to like bold text, add links, things like that, where it's helpful on our end because the person doesn't have to actually mess with like our HTML or anything like that. It's just they're giving us clues in order to know where to update things. And then the metadata is a reference to the other content model that I'm using here. So this is an instance of where you might want to use this in other places. So the metadata was going to be used on every single page. So it made sense to be able to pull that out and make it its own little model. Cool. So this is where I'm trying to import my information to, is the content. Again, so as a content manager, I can go in here and I can like create new things. So if I wanted to go in and I can manually create a press release, this is what they thought they were going to do, which is fine for maybe the press releases because there's only 50 of them. But when it comes to the blog posts, I think there were about 800. So not ideal. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at what I had to do for migrating the data into Contentful. Again, kind of lucked out. Contentful has their own, oh my God, I'm blanking on it, but being like an API in order to move their information easily from like as a developer into Contentful. I think it's the content management API. I think that's the one it's called. There's a few of them. So that's what I'm utilizing here, is the Contentful management API. So we go through here. You got to connect to Contentful. So there's a personal access token that you generate. So again, I'm going to probably change this after this just to make sure that nothing happens, even though I'm on a personal account. And then there's the space. So you can kind of think of that as just like a container, or the you can have multiple, say you have like multiple sites for some reason. I don't know, maybe you're contractor or something like that. So you can have multiple sites here, and that would be considered a space. That's what Contentful calls it. And then the environment. So kind of like a Git branching situation where you can have multiple environments in Contentful, and you can manipulate and add things to different environments. Cool. So we'll go ahead and we'll connect to Contentful, and then from there, I'll come back to these, but these are basically data manipulation situations. So if we go to the JSON, one of the things that was not going to work was because, like I mentioned, when we are in Contentful, it has to be rich text. It has to be text. It can't be HTML that comes through. So that was one of my biggest struggles, was trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to convert this HTML into something that is not going to be a pain in the butt to go in and edit, basically, after I go and try to migrate it in. So what I found was an NPM package where I could just take advantage of being able to just parse the HTML into just regular text. So that was really helpful. Wasn't the greatest, not gonna lie. there was a lot of headaches. It's not the best package. There were things that were, I mean, so it was kind of on our side as well. So we had some rough HTML where things were added to, like, say an unsorted list, or sorry, an unordered list. And we would have something in there which wasn't, like, somehow there would be like an H1 that somehow got in there, and like, you're not supposed to do that. So it would completely break this. It wasn't really good at error handling there. But yeah, otherwise it did the job. So that was really cool. Another thing that we were doing was just changing the file extension to our images. This was just a Contentful thing. On our side, we had some that were JPG, and Contentful wanted JPEG. So that's all that was really going on over here. And then, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember why I did this one. So we'll have to go in and take a look. So, okay, so we have some separate methods that are going on here. But otherwise, let's get into the meat and potatoes of things. So we're gonna go in and we will connect Contentful. And then from there, I'm going to loop through my data, which is up here. So it's my JSON file. And as I go through, I'm going to try and grab the information. Sometimes I have to process it, and then I have to push it up to Contentful. So first, I needed to create the image asset. The reason I needed to do that first was because I need to add that to the metadata. So if we go in and we look at our content model, it's in here as well. So I knew that, like, the image needed to be the thing that we did first. So all I'm doing right here is I'm just grabbing the alt text. You can see this is just on my end. I just wanted to be able to add some extra information instead of a blank string. But yeah, so we're passing in information to the title, description, and then passing in the file. So it looks like content type. So what I would do is this would be type. So I'm checking to see if it's a PNG, if it's a JPEG. The file name, bring on right here. Looks like it was maybe messy at some point. I'm just trying to clean it up. I don't remember what this one's for, but this all right here is coming from the Contentful management docs. So if you're working with this, or if you have any interest, that's where you would go to really get a feel for this. So yeah, from there, once I grab all that information, images work a little bit different than text, because it's a little bit more just heavy than just regular text. So I need to go in and be able to process it. Again, this is just a Contentful management API thing. I'm going and processing it here. Then once it's all processed and it's like uploaded to Contentful, I need to be able to publish it and make it available to my next two pieces of content to use it. That's what's going on here. And then I go into the metadata, and I want to do that one next because the metadata needs to be linked to the actual press release. So that's what I'm doing here. Again, you can see it's pretty similar. I'm creating the entry. These are the different fields that I need to add. They are based on, so title, description, featured image. They are all based on what is here in the content model. We can see the information being passed. So the title would be right here. Meta description, again, needed something to add in there, just added some dummy text. And then the featured image, which we got from up here. And then from there, all I'm doing is I'm publishing it. If something broke, I'm just catching it, seeing what the error is. You can see one of the things that I did do, it tripped me up yesterday. was that I was using the meta description to be able to determine what was breaking. And the only reason I did that was because the title here for the meta description, as well as the title for the press release, were the same. So this was just a way for me to be able to discern between, did the metadata break or did the press release break? Cool. So we have both those two things. Now we can go ahead and we can create our entry for our press release. Again, we're just creating the entry. As we go through, we're passing the data we need for the press release. So the title, the slug, date, image, body, all that good stuff. We can see that it's coming through here. Nice and easy. Again, so the body is where I need to be able to convert to some rich text instead of the HTML that I have. So that's what's going on here. And then once I have all that information, I just publish it. So we can go ahead and we can run. I hope that's right. All right, cool. So we can see it running. I don't know if I'll catch it in real time. Let me see. No, just my old one that I showed you guys with. So go ahead and we'll let it run. Cool, we can see it starting to come in. I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this one so it's not as distracting for me, mostly. All right, cool. So we have everything. So we can see that the metadata is coming through as well as the press release for each one. So that's cool. As I go through, I'm just going to go ahead and take a look at what's in the content versus what's in the JSON and just make sure that things are matching. That was pretty much all I did as far as debugging and making sure that things were looking good. Looks like we're on this one. So just spotting it right now. Looks like these two are correct. So that's cool. But yeah, so from there, it was just sort of taking a look and making sure things look clean. Sometimes things did not look clean and I'd have to go back and try to figure out what's going on. But yeah, otherwise it was this simple and this easy. And it was insane how once I got the hang of everything, how smooth sailing it was. Like I said before, I primarily spend my time doing, I like to call them makeovers for websites, where it's just me making visual changes to the website. So this was my first time doing something where, at least at Embrace, where I was migrating data and trying to make things, work as they're going from one place to the other. So first time doing any web scraping sounded really intimidating, but once I got my hands dirty, it was incredibly easy. So yeah, that's all I got.
Carrie, I had a question early on, but then you answered it later.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm actually good. I was going to ask, in the midst of the process, like, can Beautiful Soup change anything that it scrapes before it dumps it into the new location? But it's not Beautiful Soup that would be doing that. It was the other thing that you had made reference to.
Yeah, so I didn't look into it too far as the Beautiful Soup stuff. I wanted to kind of keep things separated. And honestly, I really utilized YouTube University to get through this. So the tutorial that I used was all about keeping the web scraping on Google Colab and things like that, and then doing the actual data cleanup through just manually. So I didn't see anything as far as doing it through a Beautiful Soup. It might be possible, but not from what I saw.
What was like the biggest issue that you ran into, or what roadblock took the most time to get across?
Oh, data cleanup for sure. Just because it was such a mess in there as far as the inline styling. Yeah, it was messy, and just the amount of data that you had to deal with at one time. So I think if I was to do this again, like to your point, I think I would try to find a way to automate it if I could. just to be able to get through the data faster.
Does anyone have any questions on that? All right, well, that was really cool, Carrie.
Thanks.
All right, well, thank you so much for presenting tonight, and thank you everyone who decided to attend. We should be meeting up next month. I'm not quite sure what we're going to be talking about. If anyone on the call wants to present on something, please shoot me a message. We definitely have an event for October, and we should have events every month until the end of the year, and then we'll go into next year. I would like to host this in person again as soon as possible. I'm just still kind of weighing out how things are going. But yeah, just stay tuned into the meetup page and any emails that I send out about the group. But Carrie, thank you so much for accepting the invitation, taking the time to talk to us about this content migration. I thought it was really cool. Obviously, it saved everyone from a fun weekend of copying and pasting. So yeah, it was awesome. So yeah,
Yeah,
thank
thank you
you.
for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I'll see everyone next month.